Senior year marks the beginning of a new chapter in one's life. And what way to better commemorate the event than with graduation photos? Taking graduation photos is a fun way to showcase all your accomplishments and growth throughout either high school or college years. But they can be kind of pricey for college students like myself. Why are they so pricey? Does price make one better than the other? That's what this video is all about. I've taken photographers from 3 drastically different price points to see which one of them is worth it at its price. I just want to put a disclaimer out there as well that the prices listed in this video are for individual shoots and may differ based on the photographers that you do choose. To give this video a little bit more structure, I should create a criterion. It's future Lisa editing this right now. I just wanted to say that I'm so stupid and that it's actually pronounced Criterion. So sorry that y'all will hear me pronounce it like a Filipino with like a heavy accent until the end to help me decide what constitutes a good photo. So looking at these photos, I believe that one of the criterion should be lighting. I feel that every photographer has a different way to format the lighting of their photos. Another thing is composition, such an appealing background. This will probably be an optional criterion just because I don't know how I've executed it myself, but emotion. Looking at a lot of these pictures, you can really tell that emotion really radiates through their faces. Another criterion can also be the style, because this photo looks a little bit more filtered, which is probably a stylistic choice by the photographer. I would love to rate based on experience as well, such as my ability to communicate with them, follow instructions, and just overall like the whole ambiance of it. I feel that the 5-grade scale that I have so far, which I will remind you is style, lighting, emotion, experience, and composition, will build a foundation of how to make like an accurate sort of worth it winner. So for the first photographer, Kyle. Kyle is a UCI alumni that I've worked with in the past. He was advertising for around $70 to $75 per photo shoot, and to sign up you were supposed to comment on his Facebook post. He was supposed to send an email, and from the email you were able to choose your booking session. Real simple process. In addition to everything else, he was able to bring props, so that was pretty fun too. Hello everybody, so I just got done with my grad photo shoot with Kyle. It was a really good experience. He made it really comfortable. It was basically the equivalent of having a friend conversation while they take photos with you. So it was just that we were talking and then photo shoot, and then talk some more and then photo shoot, and a lot of walking in 5-inch heels, which thank you so much, Kyle, for bearing with me on that and allowing me to take breaks and everything and taking off my shoes and whining a little bit about it. I don't know if it was because of our prior encounter with each other. We were familiar with each other, but I don't think we actually like had a conversation. In addition to that, we also had a really good conversation about what other things constitute in a photographer's price point, such as experience and like their editing techniques and how much time they put into editing a photo. I will also be taking that into consideration moving forward. He also gave me some tips on what to do to prepare for the next photo shoot, because coming into this I did not know, as you will see in some of the videos I took. So I only had 3 poses, which is hand on hip, hand on side, and zotting, which is the gang sign here at UCI. In addition to that, I didn't know how long 1 hour of photos would have taken. We were actually able to move to 6 different locations on campus, but then again, I feel like if you are at a different campus, just because my university's in a circle, it's kind of easy to navigate. He was playing music that did cut off, and he did have a random playlist. It would go from POV to like the WAP, you know what I'm saying? Today is day 2 of the grad photo shoot, so the second price point range, aka Alvis, is apparently an award-winning photographer. So I took Kyle's advice and looked for graduation poses that I could potentially do before coming into the photo shoot. I bought a few props because unfortunately Alvis did not provide props, but I didn't mind because it's not expected of a photographer to bring all that stuff. I will bring a champagne bottle as well as some other alcoholic beverages. 21, by the way. This is completely legal. I'll keep everything as consistent as possible. Wearing the same dress, wearing the same heels and everything, and we'll get back to you soon on how the experience goes. Bye. Okay. Alvis. It was a great experience. He was really professional. There's definitely a difference in each photographer's approach to how they want their photos to be. For Alvis specifically, it was more candid shot vibe. Look at the camera shots and candid look away from the camera shots, like you don't even know it's there, so it's like more natural, you know. I'm awkward, I don't know how well I executed. So it is day 3, the highest tier in this graduation photo shoot, $250 per hour. Other than Ian's obviously impressive portfolio, I looked him up and he's actually on famousbirthdays.com. His description says, TikTok star who has risen to fame for his self-titled verified account. If I sound tired, most likely it's because I am. I just got home from my 3rd photo shoot with the one and only Ian. This shoot was shot later on in the day in a more busier setting. The timing was really challenging. And this is no way to sort of judge Ian. There was about like 50 people in one of the UCI locations. So it was like a fight between like photographers to take the pictures of their graduates. In Ian's style, he found spots on UCI campus that wasn't really used, which is really great because if you were to look at photos, they wouldn't even look like UCI. That's what's crazy about it. He knew what he was doing and he knew the shot that he was going to capture. Before actually taking a photo, each photographer, talented Kyle, Alvis, the award-winning wedding photographer, famous Ian Boggs, agreed to do an interview with me where the following questions were asked. The first question is, what makes a good photo in your opinion?
In terms of a good photo, I think one that's editable, that's the first thing that I look for. Is things aren't blown out or like it's actually focused, because then you can add other things in post. But if it's like any kind of like unfocused, that's like my biggest disappointment when I go home, put it on the computer and it's just so slightly like soft and you're like, dang it, because the pose is good, the lighting is good, and there's no like things in the foreground that I have to edit out. I think it's one that's like I don't have to edit it as much and tweak as much. But in terms of like the artistic side, I think a good photo is something that like, I don't know, like I'm just excited to share it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to ask the client, I'm like, can I share this on my like portfolio please? Oh, nice. That's what I define as like a good photo.
It is a lot of factors that goes into a certain photo. It also depends on the type of photo it is. Kind of like a landscape photo, there's a lot of different concepts that goes into that versus, let's say, portraits. So one of the big things that I focus on, especially with my style, is composition. But one of the big things in landscape photography is that you always have to compose the photo a certain way. The photo should draw the eye to a specific spot in the photo. And then for portraits, mostly lighting as well as emotion. And then to do that, there's a variety of things you can do. You could have a certain routine that gets like an emotional response out of your subjects, or you just get your subjects to be playful, maybe get a little bit of laughter out there. So the more emotion in portraits, I think the more the pictures come out better.
I would say a good photo is one where the person is completely relaxed and feels comfortable in front of the camera and gets the message across of the emotion the person is feeling. For, I would say, landscape or wildlife, a photo just makes someone go, wow. I think that's the best kind of photo.
Second question, what sets you apart from other photographers?
I'm not sure. I think I saw this like big surge of like creative inspiration and a lot of people are getting into photography. I think maybe it was like my network that's different from others, because I think there's so many other talented photographers, but I'm very grateful for like the network that I had from my like college involvements and stuff that really like helped me get my like photography out there. In terms of like creative vision, I'm not someone who's trained. It's all just like play it by ear, kind of for fun. I just like to try new things and try different colors. When people look at my photos, they're like, that's like a Kyle Dimla photo.
I rely heavily on composition in my photos. Even though I do a lot of wedding photography, I like to integrate a lot of landscape photography concepts into my photos, especially if I'm shooting like a really wide photo, like a 16mm all the way to like maybe like a 24mm. When you're shooting that wide, the subject's really small in the photos, so you really have to focus on the background itself. So pretty much in my photo, I want to make sure that every element of the picture contributes to the photo.
I think what sets me apart from other photographers is my style in terms of shooting and editing. Whenever I'm shooting, I try to get different angles that no one else has shot before, so I can have like individual photos that clients can only get with like my photography. And my editing, I try to keep it as natural as possible.
The third question, part A of it, I guess, is what camera are you using?
The camera I use is a Canon 80D, and then I shoot with a Sigma 50mm 1.4 stop.
I'm using the A7 A7 III by Sony. I used to use the A7R3 and R4, but the file sizes were too big and editing that was a pain, so I kind of downgraded to the A7 III. And I also shoot hybrid, so it's like the perfect camera for me.
Today I'm using a Sony A7 III with a 70-200 Sony GEM lens, f2.8, and I have some other lenses. I have a Sigma Arts 1.4 20mm and a 30mm 1.4.
And part B being, what are the qualities of a good camera?
Yeah, I have no idea like what I'm talking about when like I look at those things. Like megapixel sounds like I'll work with what I got. Your equipment can be old and like busted, but you can still create very iconic photographs.
Flexibility, like the ability to interchange lenses. It doesn't have to be full frame versus like crop sensors. It's more of like when you have a full frame, you have kind of more options, but you can definitely do the same things on a crop sensor camera versus a full frame. The only benefit to a full frame is if you're shooting in really dark situations.
I think a good camera is one that a photographer is able to use and take advantage of to make the best photo possible that they can. And if you really want to get technical, then the lens is the most important thing. I don't think the camera is the most important thing. Then when it really comes down to it, it's the person using it.
The fourth question is, what can a subject do to better maximize their time for a photo shoot?
I think definitely knowing what they want and knowing like your angles, is because I think when people like know how to position their body or like know where their arms are gonna go and stuff like that, it moves a lot faster. It's also coming with references, like going on like different hashtags like grad 20 something or UCI grad, and looking at other people's photos. So like this is the type of photo that I want, like with the cap and the gown, or like I want to kind of stand like this in this kind of location.
So I say one, know your preferred side if you have one. Another thing is to relax your face and shoulders, because everyone like in front of the camera, they get super tense, so I kind of have to like slowly ease into it. But once you relax and you start smiling naturally more, then it starts to become a lot less stressful and a lot more fun.
I think things that clients can do to get ready for a shoot is bring all the props that you want for the photos, and if you have any locations you want to take photos at, that you know for sure you want to take photos at, let the photographer know beforehand. Just make sure you're comfortable, you're relaxed, you're not too stressed out, be laid back with it and whatnot.
I also told them to give me tips about photographers.
Honestly, just go out and practice as much as you can. Like, go out with your friends and take photos, compare like the fine details. If you're going to get into working with clients, pick up on like little cues from people of how to interact with them or what they kind of want from their photos. A lot of people forget that like photography is like a customer service, so a lot of like social skills goes into it. I think doing research and also finding creative inspiration is really important.
I would say just take as many photos as you possibly can whenever you have time, because pretty much after every photo you take, you kind of learn something new. And then if you really want to learn composition, I would recommend doing landscapes, because landscapes is like 100% composition. If you can learn landscapes, it applies to everything else, especially portraits.
For anyone who wants to get into photography, I would say do as much research as you can, get obsessed with it. No photographer ever was born a good photographer. Even if they have talent, they had to work hard to actually make it their living.
So I've already taken all my photos with each of the 3 photographers. I made a Criterion, and I will be using that to sort of see who is the worth it winner. Just in case you forgot, the Criterion is emotion, composition, experience, and style and lighting. I had to combine the 2 because I feel like they were really similar within each other. So for each of the photographers, I'll be breaking down their scores. Each aspect, each photographer was gonna get a score of 5, 3, or 1, and the same score will not be given twice. That means if Kyle gets a 5 in one category, then the other photographers, either Ian or Alvis, cannot get a 5 in that category. They would either get a 3 or a 1. So for emotion, Alvis receives a 5 because he made everything seem so candid and natural. Both Ian and Kyle were great too, but Kyle didn't really go into depth about emotion, and I didn't expect him to. And with Ian, I was told to like fake laugh, and because I'm awkward, I feel like I didn't properly execute it for like the photos. For style and lighting, Ian actually received a 5 just because his photos seemed more like subtle and like soft with like natural lighting. For both Kyle and Alvis, there seemed to be some sort of filter or some alteration in the lighting, which isn't a bad thing. It's just for me, I like the more subtle look and like natural look. For composition, Alvis takes the win just because like Homeboy used all the elements of the background and like used it to formulate a great photo. Everything in in the photo looked like it was meant to be there. And I really like how Alvis mastered that technique. For overall experience, Kyle received a 5, and that's not only because we were familiar with each other, because we both worked at like the student center, but because he made me feel comfortable and confident taking photos, because this was my first photo shoot ever, let me mind you that. And I didn't know what to expect because of it. With the whole hour I spent with him, he gave me experience about like photography. He had such a good conversation with me, and etc, etc. Not to say the others weren't nice as well. Let me actually note that Alvis did offer me a ride back to my apartment, which is like, no one does that. But Kyle really set up the foundation of like the other photo shoots that I'll be taking. So I totaled up the scores, and I want to thank all of the photographers for being involved in this very important part of my college career. And I think you all are equally skilled. My worth it winner today was Alvis. To conclude this video, I want to thank all the photographers that were involved. I've linked all their social medias below, so y'all should just check them out because they're talented and they know what the they're doing. And I'm also going to be inserting some of my favorite photos from each photographer over here. Thank you all for watching this as well. I wish you all luck in your photography journey, whether you are the subjects or whether you're the person behind the camera. Goodbye.